Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to be number 9 in our series entitled Written in Stone, about the change that took place in the calendar about 2,700 years ago when the earth went from having a 360-day year to having a 365.25-day year. If you haven't seen the first 8 videos in this series, then this one probably won't make much sense to you. You really need to go back and look at those. But in any case, today's video is going to be about prophecy. I told you when I started this series that if you did not understand or know in your heart that the earth used to have a 360-day year and is about to go back to a 360-day year, you could not understand one single prophecy in the Bible. Because all Bible prophecies that are left for us are based on a 360-day year. And just to prove that, now, the time period we're talking about, I think, is mentioned in every single book of the Bible. Sometimes it's talked about as the end times, other times it's spoken of as the last days, it's spoken of as a conclusion of a system of things, it's spoken of as a great tribulation. But each and every one of these is the same period of time, and it's always 3.5 years. Many of the prophecies can be associated by the fact that they're similar, but others can be associated because they speak of the same exact time period. If you understand that the earth at one time had a 360-day year, and you understand that we're about to go back to that, because there is the prophecy of the 42 months. 42 months on a 360-day year works out to exactly 3.5 years. There is also the prophecy of the 1,260 days. 1,260 days on a 360-day calendar works out to exactly 3.5 years. There is also the prophecy of the times and half a time, which is also 3.5 years. So if you don't understand that we're going to a 360-day year, you're not going to understand any of that. Now, I already know that this video is going to cause a lot of controversy. A lot of people are going to be angry at me because every church on the earth that I know about depends on these being separate prophecies in order for their theology to work. In other words, many of the times these prophecies are spoken of sequentially when in fact they are not sequential but concurrent. In other words, they happen at the same time, but in order for you to understand or believe in their theology, you have to believe that they're separate and they happen one after the other. Just as an example, in the book of Revelation, we are told about the opening of 7 seals. And the way that basically goes is John sees a man open the first seal, then he sees him open the second seal, and when he gets to the 7th seal and opens it, it says, "And I saw 7 angels with 7 trumpets, and the first angel blew his trumpet, and the second angel blew his trumpet," and he gets done. And he says, "And I saw 7 bowls of God's wrath being poured out." So, if you just take our English translation of the Bible and try your best to just block out all of the facts, you can make it seem as those are 7 sequential prophecies, one after the other. But each of those begins with the calendar being recorrected, or being the earth and the moon and the sun being put back into synchronization with one another, and they end with the establishment of God's kingdom forever, the resurrection of the dead, and the making of all things new. So you can't have a prophecy that takes us from the beginning to the end, and then the next prophecy takes us back to the beginning and to the end, and have them sequential. They're just the same prophecy. You just have to understand that. Now, most people recognize that the 7 trumpet blasts are associated with the Feast of Trumpets that was originally practiced by the Jewish people thousands of years ago. And it is. But you run into a sticking point because the Feast of Trumpets was only celebrated once a year at the Vernal Equinox in the fall. So every year, on the first day of the 7th month, there would be a lunar eclipse. There would be a man stationed to watch for the lunar eclipse with a horn. When he saw the eclipse beginning, he would blow the horn so that everyone in the village could come out and enjoy the eclipse together. That was done every year, and it was done in Israel. But we're not talking about Israel. We're talking about God's world, His planet. Our vernal equinox happens twice a year, our fall equinox and our spring equinox. but we only have one fall equinox, but the southern hemisphere of the earth has their fall equinox when we're having our spring equinox. So we would have a lunar eclipse on this side of the planet. 6 months later, we'd have a lunar eclipse on the other side of the planet, and then back and forth until all 7 are done, which would take place over a period of 3.5 years. This is also going to cause problems, but look, if you get mad at me because I'm destroying your religion, or I'm speaking against your teachers, that's okay, but please don't stop watching my videos. The information that I'm sharing with you is not just for entertainment purposes. This is going to be absolutely essential if you want to live through what's about to happen. Please keep watching me even if you hate me. Even if you want to make bad comments, don't stop watching because I'm tearing up your theology. Just to show you that these are all... Okay, we already have made the association between the trumpet blast, right? Trumpet blast and lunar eclipse. So we're going to look at what a lunar eclipse looks like so we can make an association between that and the other prophecies. If I can get these in order. Okay, this is a full moon. I hope you can see this. When we have a lunar eclipse, what happens is the earth comes directly between the moon and the sun, throwing a shadow of the earth onto the moon. And so that's what it looks like when it's... See, this is the full moon, and when the earth comes directly between the moon and the earth, you'll see something like this. And the shadow will slowly move across the moon until it is dead center in the moon. Now, the reason that we get eclipses, and ours are not predictable because we no longer have a 360-day year, but the reason we get eclipses is because on the day when the earth and the moon and the sun are in alignment, at the whenever, and the earth comes between them, it's because the sun and the moon are catching up with each other. That's right to left, you know, east to west. But if we go to a 360 years, that's not what's going to cause the lunar eclipse. It's going to be the vernal equinox. When the vernal equinox takes place, this is what you're going to see. Let me see here. That's when you don't see nothing, just a full moon. And as the shadow of the earth starts, it will start from the top. And it will work its way down. Now, does that look like a bowl of God's wrath being poured out? When John told us about the bowls of God's wrath being poured out, he was simply confirming that the trumpet blast would be associated with a lunar eclipse. And probably John didn't even know that it was talking about a lunar eclipse because the lunar eclipse had stopped occurring hundreds of years before John was born. But it's the same thing with the seals being removed from the scroll. The seal being removed from a scroll kind of looks like a lunar eclipse. In any case, all of this is important. You have to understand we had a 360-day year at one time. We're going back to a 360-day year because by knowing that, you can know everything that's going to happen in the last days. First off, you can know there's a 3.5-year time period. We're not looking for a 7-year time period. We're not looking for historic events over eons of time. You know, a lot of the churches, they associate these prophecies with everything from the establishment of the Catholic Church to the founding fathers to the establishment of Israel in 1948. And that's just foolishness. None of that is involved in this at all. And if you believe that stuff, you're going to be in a lot of trouble when these things start happening. And here's another thing. I keep telling you, you got to get out of church, but it is vitally important that you sink these things into your mind. Because even if you want to continue going to church, if your whole family goes there, all your business partners go there, everybody you love is there, and you can't give that up, you have to have this strongly embedded in your mind. Because I promise you, when these things happen, the networks, the churches, the government, every single agency that's associated with civilization is going to do everything in their power to convince you that what you're watching is a natural phenomenon, and they will use all kinds of scientific gobbledygook terms to prove it to you. And guess what? If you're filling your mind with that poison every day, it don't matter what your eyes see. When you look up there and see an eclipse, a lunar eclipse every year, and you see the moon come up every day at the exact same instance that the sun goes down, it don't matter what you see with your eyes. You're going to believe whatever they tell you. Written in stone. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.